On a quiet afternoon, Ryan sat across from his sister Jenny at their usual booth in a cozy family cafe, but something was different. His shoulders were heavy, his smile forced, and Jenny could feel that something was off. She didn't have to pry too hard before Ryan finally opened up. Life at home, he admitted, had been difficult lately. His wife, Lauren, was swamped at work, coming home late every night, mentally and physically exhausted. Conversations between them had dwindled to short exchanges. Their connection felt like it was unraveling thread by thread, and Ryan was trying to stay hopeful, calling it just a rough patch. But the truth was, he felt like his wife was slipping away. Jenny listened closely, alarm bells quietly going off in her head. She'd always known Ryan and Lauren to be a strong couple, affectionate and solid, so the change disturbed her. While she didn't want to overstep, she couldn't ignore her gut. Ryan's habit of downplaying serious issues with phrases like little problems only made her more concerned. The way he looked, tired, defeated, suggested this was much more than temporary stress. Jenny knew her brother well enough to see that he was holding something back, or maybe simply refusing to face what he feared. Though Jenny and Lauren weren't particularly close, they'd always gotten along. Still, Jenny felt compelled to see for herself. Maybe she was being overprotective, but Ryan had always been there for her, and now it was her turn. So, a few days later, with a gentle excuse to drop off borrowed books, she found herself near Lauren's office. She didn't expect anything dramatic, perhaps just to get a sense of how Lauren was doing. But when she arrived, Lauren wasn't there. A colleague said she was out at lunch, so Jenny left the books and went back to her car. Then came the moment that changed everything. From her window, Jenny spotted Lauren walking arm in arm with a man who wasn't Ryan. Their body language spoke volumes, relaxed, intimate, familiar. When Lauren saw Jenny's car, she immediately let go of the man's arm, her smile disappearing in a flash. The signal was clear, this wasn't innocent. Lauren gestured to her watch and hurried inside, the man close behind. Stunned, Jenny sat frozen, her heart pounding. Ryan had trusted Lauren completely, too much, perhaps. He hadn't even considered the possibility of betrayal. But Jenny had seen what she'd seen, and it was up to her now to protect her brother from a truth he didn't want to face. The question wasn't if she should tell him. It was how, and when. Because sometimes, love blinds us. And sometimes, we need someone close to help us see what's been in front of us all along. The moment Jenny saw Lauren walking arm in arm with another man, something inside her shifted. It wasn't just suspicion anymore, it was certainty. The intimacy in their body language, the way Lauren's expression changed the instant their eyes met, and the guilt that washed over her face, it all told the story before words ever could. Jenny drove straight to Ryan's workplace, heart pounding, hands shaking, rehearsing the conversation in her head. She knew this would hurt him, but she also knew he deserved the truth, even if it came from her. When she saw Ryan, she didn't waste time. The words came out rushed, emotional, fragmented, a messy recounting of what she'd seen outside Lauren's office. She described the scene, the closeness, the way Lauren had let go of the man's arm and darted inside. But instead of reacting with shock or outrage, Ryan simply dismissed it. Calmly. Almost frustratingly. "Jenny," he said gently, "you've been saying for months that your eyesight's getting worse. Maybe you saw it wrong." His words hit her like a slap. Her mouth opened slightly in disbelief. Was he really brushing this off? Jenny felt anger rising in her throat, not because he doubted her, but because he was so clearly in denial. "Ryan," she said firmly, "I know what I saw. And I wouldn't come to you with this unless I was absolutely sure." But he just gave her a tired look, as if the idea of Lauren cheating on him was so far-fetched it wasn't worth entertaining. Jenny stormed out, her frustration boiling over. She had done what she thought was right, brought the truth to someone she loved, and been shut down. Ryan, meanwhile, was left alone with his thoughts. Deep down, a small crack had formed in the wall of trust he'd built around Lauren. He tried to dismiss it, to rationalize what Jenny had said, but her words stuck with him. And more importantly, so did the look in her eyes, the seriousness, the concern, the absolute certainty. That night, long after the world had gone quiet, Ryan called her. His voice was different, low, steady, but serious. "Can you describe the guy you saw with Lauren?" he asked. Jenny's response was immediate: tall, blonde curly hair, navy blue suit. Ryan didn't say much after that, just thanked her and hung up. But Jenny knew something had changed. He was listening now, not out of fear, but out of growing suspicion. The seed had been planted, and it was only a matter of time before Ryan would stop trying to protect the illusion and start uncovering the truth. Sometimes, it takes more than evidence to open someone's eyes. It takes a person who cares enough to say the hard things, and walk away when they're not ready to hear it. After Jenny's call, Ryan couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind: tall, blonde, curly hair, navy blue suit. At first, he had tried to convince himself it was nothing, that maybe she had seen wrong, that maybe Lauren really was just under stress from work. But something about Jenny's conviction, the emotion in her voice, and the way she described everything in such detail planted a seed of doubt that refused to go away. That night, as Lauren returned home late once again, claiming exhaustion, she tossed her purse on the table and went straight to the bathroom. Her phone buzzed. Ryan glanced at it, not with suspicion, but with instinct. And there it was. A message on the screen: "Thanks for tonight," smiley face emoji. His heart dropped. Calmly, he picked up her phone and saved the number. Then, using a messaging app, he cross-checked it, and the profile photo left no room for doubt. The man Jenny had described matched perfectly: tall, blonde, curly hair. A polished, confident look. Ryan stared at the screen for a long moment before quietly setting the phone down. No confrontation. No yelling. Not yet. Over the next few days, Ryan became a quiet observer. He waited, watched, paid attention. One evening, instead of staying home, he followed Lauren after she left work. He watched from a distance as she met the same man Jenny had seen. They laughed, touched each other's arms, shared a closeness that could no longer be explained away. Ryan didn't interrupt. He simply took a picture, undeniable proof. When Lauren arrived home that night, everything looked normal, until she noticed her belongings packed in bags near the door. Confused, she asked what was going on. That's when Ryan, calm but firm, showed her the photo. She froze. At first, she denied everything. She claimed it was a misunderstanding, that Ryan was misinterpreting things, that work had been consuming and she was just tired, not unfaithful. But Ryan wasn't interested in hearing lies. He simply said, "It's done." She broke down, pleaded, but the damage was irreversible. He had loved her, trusted her, and given her the benefit of every doubt. But the truth had finally stepped into the light, and now there was no looking away. Ryan didn't lash out. Instead, he took the steps that mattered. He informed Lauren's boss, knowing their company had policies against inter-office relationships. He even reached out to the other man's wife, giving her the facts she, too, deserved to know. Quietly, methodically, Ryan took back control, not with rage, but with truth. And through it all, he never forgot that it was Jenny who helped him see what he didn't want to see. Sometimes, truth doesn't scream, it whispers through the people who love us enough to speak up. After the confrontation, the final chapter of Ryan and Lauren's marriage unfolded with a chilling calmness. There were no more arguments, no shouting matches, no dramatic attempts at reconciliation. The truth had already spoken loud enough. Ryan's decision was firm. He was filing for divorce. He'd given Lauren the chance to come clean, to explain, and instead, she chose denial until there was no denying left. That moment when she saw the photo, when her lies finally collapsed under the weight of evidence, was when Ryan knew the woman he once loved was gone, or maybe never fully there to begin with. The divorce process moved quickly. Ryan was efficient and detached. For years, he had been the emotional anchor in their relationship, supporting Lauren through her career ambitions, encouraging her through difficult times. But now, that emotional connection had been severed. What hurt most wasn't the betrayal, it was the realization that he had been fighting alone for a relationship she had quietly stepped away from long ago. Jenny visited him often during this time. Her presence was a reminder that while trust could be broken, it could also be restored in other forms, like in the bond between siblings who truly cared. Ryan thanked her repeatedly, not just for telling him the truth, but for standing by him through the aftermath. "Sometimes you need someone brave enough to tell you the hard truth," he told her one afternoon over coffee. "You gave me that. You gave me clarity." As the paperwork was finalized and Lauren moved out, the house felt emptier, but not in a sorrowful way, more like the air had finally cleared. For the first time in years, Ryan could breathe without second-guessing himself. There were no more late-night worries, no more wondering if he was being paranoid. He had answers now. And even though those answers hurt, they set him free. He started putting the pieces of his life back together, slowly and quietly. He reconnected with old friends, took longer walks, started reading again. He wasn't rushing into a new relationship, he wasn't ready for that, but he was rediscovering himself. And in that journey, there was peace. What remained was a simple truth. Sometimes people we love make choices we can't control, but how we respond, how we heal, how we rise again, that's ours to own. Ryan didn't let betrayal define him. He let it refine him. And in the ashes of a broken marriage, he found something stronger than resentment. He found resilience. As the weeks turned into months, Ryan's life began to take a quieter, more reflective shape. The pain of betrayal hadn't vanished, but it no longer consumed him. What remained was a calm emptiness, not cold, but cleansing. The kind that comes after a long, violent storm has passed. The house, once shared with Lauren, now felt like a new space. With her belongings gone, so too were the daily reminders of broken trust. In their place came small signs of healing, the morning sunlight through the kitchen window, the steady hum of peace, and the freedom to live without pretense. Ryan never expected to be divorced in his 30s. But rather than view it as a failure, he saw it as an awakening. He realized how long he had been giving and giving in a relationship that had quietly hollowed out. Lauren's betrayal hurt deeply, yes, but more than the affair, it was the emotional absence that wounded him. She had left the marriage long before she physically stepped out of it. Her silence, her distance, her excuses, those were the first signs of goodbye. And yet, Ryan didn't let bitterness take root. He didn't let one person's deception define how he saw love, women, or the future. He chose growth. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, it meant releasing himself from the weight of resentment. He forgave Lauren not because she deserved it, but because he did. He didn't want to carry her choices on his back for the rest of his life. The most powerful lesson came not from Lauren, but from Jenny. His sister had seen what he refused to see. She'd risked their relationship to tell him a painful truth, and in doing so, saved him from a longer, deeper lie. That kind of love, Ryan realized, was rare. It wasn't loud or flashy. It was courageous, grounded in integrity. And that was the kind of love he now valued, honest, loyal, and rooted in truth, even when it hurts. Ryan slowly reconnected with himself, not the husband, not the betrayed man, but the individual. He picked up old hobbies, rekindled lost friendships, and started attending therapy not to fix himself, but to understand himself better. He wasn't afraid of being alone anymore. In fact, solitude became a source of strength, a space to rebuild his identity, on his terms. If the marriage had taught him anything, it was this: don't ignore the signs, don't silence your instincts, and never settle for emotional neglect in the name of love. Relationships should challenge us, yes, but they should never make us feel invisible. Ryan now walks forward lighter, clearer, and more aware of his worth, not defined by who left him, but by how he rose once they did. In the end, what lingered in Ryan's heart wasn't the memory of betrayal, it was the clarity that came after. What Jenny gave him wasn't just the truth about Lauren's affair, but something far more valuable, a wake-up call. For a long time, Ryan had lived under the illusion that love, routine, and shared years were enough to hold a marriage together. But what he learned, painfully, yet necessarily, is that trust isn't built on time, it's built on presence, effort, and emotional honesty. And when those things go missing, love becomes a shadow of itself. Lauren didn't just cheat, she faded, emotionally and physically, until Ryan barely recognized the woman he once adored. And he, like many people in long-term relationships, had filled in the silence with excuses. She's tired. It's just work stress. We'll bounce back. But when Jenny forced him to look beyond the comfort of denial, he saw the truth, and it hurt. Yet it was only in facing that hurt that Ryan found his freedom. His story is not just about infidelity. It's about what happens when we ignore our intuition, when we silence the inner voice that whispers, something's wrong. Ryan learned the hard way that love isn't about holding on at all costs, it's knowing when to let go to protect your peace. And that realization changed him. It made him braver, more discerning, and more honest with himself and others. But most importantly, this story highlights the value of loyal people who tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Jenny could have stayed silent. She could have dismissed her gut instinct or avoided the confrontation altogether. But her love for her brother outweighed her fear of upsetting him. And that courage, that insistence on truth, was what ultimately saved Ryan from wasting years on someone who had already given her heart elsewhere. Now, Ryan sees love differently. He doesn't chase idealized perfection or mistake longevity for loyalty. He values emotional connection, transparency, and mutual respect. And he's no longer afraid to walk away when those things are missing. The greatest takeaway from Ryan's journey is simple but powerful: you can't build the future with someone who's living in the past with someone else. And when the people around you care enough to open your eyes, listen. Because sometimes, it's not your heart that sees clearly, it's the people who love you when you've forgotten how to love yourself. Ryan didn't just survive betrayal. He evolved through it. And that evolution, rooted in truth, guided by courage, became the foundation for a stronger, more authentic life ahead. In revenge, but in acceptance. The past no longer held him hostage. Yes, the betrayal cut deep. Yes, it changed him. But instead of letting it harden his heart, he chose to let it sharpen his clarity. He saw the value in pain, not for what it took from him, but for what it taught him. Loyalty is priceless, and those who give it freely should be honored, not ignored. Lauren's affair was not just the breaking of a vow. It was the erosion of presence, the neglect of partnership, and the quiet dismissal of everything they once stood for. And while Ryan no longer needed explanations, he also no longer needed closure from her. Her silence spoke louder than any apology ever could. The truth had come to him not from the one who owed it, but from someone who loved him enough to say what he didn't want to hear. Jenny became the unexpected hero in Ryan's life. Her courage to confront him, despite knowing how it might strain their relationship, was an act of real love. She didn't do it out of spite or superiority. She did it because she believed Ryan deserved the truth, and that he deserved more than quiet suffering. That kind of honesty is rare, and it reminded Ryan that not all relationships fail. Some simply outgrow their purpose, while others grow stronger under pressure. Now, as Ryan looks ahead, he no longer clings to the idea of what could have been. He focuses on what can still be. He doesn't measure future love by grand gestures or superficial charm. Instead, he looks for consistency, emotional availability, and mutual effort, the cornerstones of a real relationship. Ryan's story isn't about bitterness or heartbreak. It's about rebirth. It's a journey from denial to discovery, from pain to peace. He learned that endings are not failures, they are chapters that prepare you for wiser beginnings. And sometimes, walking away is not the loss, staying in what breaks you is. He honors the years he shared with Lauren, but he no longer romanticizes them. He forgives her, not to let her off the hook, but to release himself from carrying her choices. His heart is lighter now, not empty, but open, wiser, and far more selective. If there's one legacy he chooses to carry from it all, it's this: be the person who tells the truth, even when it's hard. And be brave enough to hear it when someone tells it to you. Because healing doesn't begin with answers. It begins with truth, and the strength to build a new life around it. In the journey of adulthood, many of us learn that not all pain comes from enemies. Sometimes, it comes from those we love most. Ryan's story is a powerful reminder that betrayal doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it creeps in quietly through emotional distance and unspoken truths. For those in midlife, juggling work, family, and years of shared history, it's easy to overlook the warning signs. But trust, once cracked, rarely heals without effort. The greatest lesson here is not about infidelity, but about listening to your instincts, and surrounding yourself with people who love you enough to tell you what you may not want to hear. Jenny's honesty may have been painful in the moment, but it ultimately saved Ryan from a longer, deeper heartbreak. As we grow older, it becomes clear, peace is more valuable than pretending. We must learn to confront uncomfortable truths, protect our emotional well-being, and never settle for one-sided relationships, no matter how long we've been in them. Sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. And in choosing truth over illusion, we give ourselves a second chance, not at love, but at self-respect.